A glorious day, 9 new Kobolds and Catacombs cards were released, and if you want to check the other cards in the expansion and keep up as more cards are released, the playlist for Kobolds and Catacombs cards will be in the top right. First up is Farrellgiver. I don't know if... Gibberer? 1 mana 1/1 rare neutral minion that reads, after this minion attacks a hero, add a copy of it to your hand. So first, synergy / decks I think this could work in. I mean, it's theoretically great for Quest Hunter, 1 card to play all your 1-drops. Or in Quest Rogue, this could complete your quest in 4 turns, and then fill your hand with 5/5s that give you even more 5/5s. It could also be used just to add cheap, low-cost minions to your hand, like how Fireflies and Flame Elementals are used now, so you can discard them in Disco Lock, or buff them in a hand-buffing Paladin. But looking at this card, unfortunately, it's really tough for a 1/1 to stay alive, let alone attack the hero next turn. Maybe in an aggro board buffing druid, this card could be buffed or hide behind taunt so it can continue giving you more Farrellgiverers. I think this card is too poorly statted to stay alive long enough, and even if multiple of them do survive on the board, the effect is too slow to work in aggro and too underpowered to work in tempo or control. This card is the Kobolds and Catacombs Weasel Tunneler, and thusly I don't expect it to see run in many decks, but I am excited to see the memes this card has to offer on Reddit. Next, let me give you the rundown on a new looking card for Rogue, Secrets. I'll get to the specific cards, but I do want to talk about how they are choosing to add secrets to Rogue. So game designer Peter Whalen, who revealed the cards with Brian Kibler, the link is in the description if you want to see that video, he explained that there are only going to be 3 Rogue secrets released this expansion, 2 of them being released today. But he also mentioned that the team is actually not planning on releasing any more Rogue secrets next expansion. And this is interesting because the more secrets a class has, the more opponents have to test for certain secrets. And if Rogue only has 3 secrets, most of the time you'll probably have a good idea of what they are. For now, let's look at Sudden Betrayal, 2 mana common Rogue secret that reads, when a minion attacks your hero, instead it attacks one of its neighbors. So it's similar to Misdirect, but this card instead makes your opponent attack one of the minions adjacent to itself. This means the card is less random, and it won't attack your face or any of your minions, but it also means your opponent can play around it better. I think it's slightly better than Misdirect, not by much. Still, it's a cool concept, and I always like cards that take board positioning into consideration. The other Rogue secret they revealed is Cheat Death, which reads, when a friendly minion dies, return it to your hand. It costs 2 less. So like a mix between Getaway Kodo and Shadow Step, Cheat Death could be a card for bouncing cards in Quest Rogue, but most likely it's just a good way to get more value. Most of the minions used in Tempo Rogue have Battlecry or combo effect, so this card could be very useful in being able to replay those minions again. The main problem I have with these secrets is I think your opponent will be able to test these relatively cheaply, and in a way these secrets act more like spells on your opponent's turn rather than actual secrets. When it comes down to it, I don't think these secrets will really have enough value to be playable, and I think it might just be 3 throwaway cards. Of course, we only have 2/3 of the pie, so I'll be waiting for the last secret to make my final spiel. Next up is Duskbreaker, 4 mana 3/3 rare priest dragon with a battle cry. If you're holding a dragon, deal 3 damage to all other minions. So this is an interesting card because right now Dragon Priest is holding on by a thread at tier 4. Consistent printing of a couple dragons each expansion has allowed this deck to stick around, but this card actually brings the early game control the deck has needed for some time. Being able to clear the board of aggro minions on turn 4 with this card can mean Dragon Priest can survive long enough to take advantage of strong late game dragons. Dealing 3 damage to all other minions is interesting because it definitely discourages earlier game development. I'm sure most will still play Nether Spite Historian before Duskbreaker because the 1/3 stats aren't really that important, but if Duskbreaker instead dealt 3 damage to all minions except dragons, this card would be really powerful. But we'll have to see what the 3 damage to all minions actually does for Dragon Priest, and if it can cause the game to slow down, or if it won't be strong enough to play. I have high hopes for this card. Next up we have legendary Shaman weapon, the Rune Spear, 8 mana 3/3. After your hero attacks, discover a spell and cast it with random targets.
Random targets?
Yeah.
Okay. This is interesting.
Even Kibler did not know what to make of this card. So the argument is that Shaman has a lot of untargetable spells, so things like Lightning Storm, Volcano, Devolve, Bloodlust, all of these are effects on the board, so the randoming target isn't really an issue. The problem is, a good chunk of Shaman spells are just too low cost and definitely targeted spells. Now I don't think this would be the worst class for this weapon, although I could see it kind of working in Druid a little bit better, but it's definitely not a good weapon. I understand how it's sort of like 3 times the value of Tortolin Primalist, but I really can't see this card being consistently powerful enough to work. To you, my friend, and upon my fiercest enemy, I pray that your first legendary not be the Rune Spear. Next we have the Branching Paths, 4 mana epic druid spell that reads, choose twice, draw a card, give your minions +1 attack, gain 6 armor. So this is going to be the only choose twice card of the expansion. It's like choose one, except you're able to choose 2 out of the 3, and you can choose the same one twice. Like choose one, this card is all about flexibility over value. Drawing 2 cards, giving your minions +2 attack, or gaining 12 armor, these aren't that good on their own for 4 mana, but being able to put a card in your deck that can adapt to certain situations on the fly is pretty nice. I could see this working in Druid if it's lacking one of these abilities in a matchup. I see it being an issue for Jade Druid to find the space to run this card right now, but we'll have to see if this expansion brings a deck that exploits a weakness in Jade Druid, and whether putting a card in like this can help Jade stay on the throne. Regardless of Jade, I think this card could help people build different types of Druid decks, kind of like how Mistress of Mixture, which provides heal, Branching Path could provide deck experimenters with card draw, armor, or damage as it's needed. I think the flexibility of the card will come in handy, if not this expansion, maybe a later one when Druid doesn't have as many powerful cards. Next is Level Up, 5 mana rare paladin spell that gives your silver hand recruits +2/+2 and taunt. When the expansion was released, Dry Gulch Jailer, a minion whose death rattle gives you 3 silver hand recruits, is one of the cards they showed. There's already a handful of silver hand recruit synergy cards, but it's really hard to rate this card before all of the cards of this expansion are released, because this card's strength really depends on the amount of silver hand recruit synergies. Personally, I wouldn't buy into the silver hand recruit hype, but I'm definitely going to try the deck with the new cards for some fun at rank 20. Alright, now we're getting into the good stuff. Lesser Mithril Spellstone, 7 mana rare warrior spellstone. Spellstones upgrade when you perform certain tasks when they're in your hand, so this card summons 1 5/5, and if you equip a weapon while this is in your hand, it will summon 2 5/5s, and if you equip a second weapon, then it will spawn 3, no more than 3. Now this is a really simple card, nothing too complex, but I think it's actually really well designed. This is a card that encourages weapon play, but it's too expensive and a dead card in hand for aggro. Again, this card isn't really that creative, it's quite boring actually, but in my Hobart Grapple Hammer 10 weapon deck, this card is a really reliable 7 mana 15/15 stats that can help me stay in the game. I think a lot of people are going to sleep on this card. I mean, I basically fell asleep just looking at the card text, but it's relatively easy to complete the upgrades, and running 2 of these in your deck will probably get you 20 to 30 minion stats in a game. That's pretty good for 2 cards. I think it's a strong card, one that tempo decks could use, and while I personally think it's going to make it into an at least 4-tier deck, if it doesn't, I'm definitely going to be playing it in my grapple deck, and that is going to be glorious. And last up we have Katharina Winter Wisp. Ding ding ding, Hunter Legendary incoming, 8 mana 6/6 with Battlecry and Death Rattle, recruit a beast. So I think recruiting a beast could be a good thing for Hunter. Unfortunately, this is the only Hunter recruit card, and I think the only way this card could work is if it was in Big Hunter. But backtracking a little bit, 8 mana 6/6 is okay stats, because the Battlecry recruit should be able to bridge the gap between the cost and the stats. So if you just threw this in an average Hunter deck, it would probably be around 8 mana for 9/9 stats, just off the Battlecry alone. The Death Rattle shows some promise, because the Death Rattle activators like Playdead and Terrascale Stalker could actually summon you more value. But the problem with this card, like Abominable Bowman, is there are too many low cost beasts to get enough value for the cost of this card. Katharina is in the right direction in terms of value, but the difference between Katharina and Aya Blackpaw is Aya guarantees to spawn you competitive stats on the boards, or at least stats that work towards Jade count, while recruiting beasts from your deck is an uncertain amount of value. But that brings me to my obligatory maybe Control Hunter is a thing argument. Crushing walls and cards that activate death rattles or summons beasts that aren't beasts themselves, maybe these cards that we thought were bad because they weren't beasts could actually work in a big Hunter. A Hunter deck that runs only high cost beasts, if they can survive long enough without their beast early game, use death rattle activators, summoners, and value cards, maybe a mid-range Big Hunter could work. With the cards we know, I couldn't think of a deck like this that would actually be better than Big Priest right now, but Big Hunter has the advantage where they only have to focus on playing big beasts, and this could be a really big early game advantage Big Hunter has over Big Priest. You definitely have to watch out for the Control Hunter Snake Oil Blizzard cells in the first day of cards being released, and this legendary definitely could be one of them. If Katharina was a 5 mana 3/3, it would be much more playable and could just be chucked in any old Hunter deck to make it better. I think this card is all or nothing, and based on past Hunter legendaries, I would probably bet against this one. That doesn't mean I don't have hope though. Well, that is all for today. I will be back tomorrow as more cards are released. Feel free to subscribe if you want my opinion as more cards come out. Thank you for watching, and until next time, ta-ta.